Have you ever wondered how to cook Japanese rice properly? In this video, I'll show you a simple step-by-step methods to cook perfect Japanese rice in a pot, plus tips on storing, reheating, and answers to common rice questions. By the way, this video is inspired by your comments. Thank you for all the great questions. Rice is the heart of Japanese meals. We eat rice every day, so cooking rice is a really important skill to learn. The process is simple and follows 6 steps. Once you learn these steps, making delicious Japanese rice at home becomes really easy. Now let's go through each step together. First, measure the rice. Today I'm cooking 2 cups of rice. Use a measuring cup and place the rice in a bowl. Try not to estimate by eye. It's best to measure it properly. We will also use the same cup to measure the water later. Next, rinse the rice. Rinsing removes excess brown from the surface of the rice. If you cook rice without rinsing it, it can develop a slightly unpleasant smell or off flavor from the brown. Add plenty of water to the bowl. Gently stir the rice 2 to 3 times, and then drain the water. Rice absorbs water very quickly during the first rinse, so discard the first water right away. Repeat this process 2 to 3 more times. You don't need to scrub the rice. Just gently stir it with your fingertips. The water doesn't need to be completely clear. It's perfectly fine if it's still slightly cloudy. Next, add plenty of water and let the rice soak for about 30 minutes. Soaking helps the rice absorb water, allowing it to cook evenly and become fluffy. Here, you can see the rice right after rinsing and after soaking for 30 minutes. At first, the rice grains are still slightly translucent. As they absorb water, they gradually turn more opaque and white. After soaking for 30 minutes, check that the rice looks like this. If it still looks a bit translucent, let it soak a little longer. Now, drain the soaking water and transfer the rice to a pot. I will talk more about choosing the right pot later in the Q&A section. Next, add fresh water. Here I'm adding 2 cups of water. When cooking Japanese rice in a pot, I usually use about the same amount of water as rice, or slightly more. I'll explain the ratio in more detail later in the Q&A section. Put the lid on and heat the pot over medium heat until it starts boiling. After a few minutes, the water will start to boil. You will hear bubbling sounds, and foam may begin to rise around the lid. Once it starts boiling, reduce the heat to low. Let it cook on low heat for about 10 to 12 minutes. During this time, do not open the lid. As the rice absorbs the water, the bubbling will gradually calm down. That's a good sign the rice is cooking properly. Turn off the heat, keep the lid on, and let the rice steam for about 10 minutes. You may notice a little moisture on the surface of the rice. It might look like there's too much water, but don't worry. During this resting stage, the rice absorbs the remaining moisture and becomes soft and fluffy. After resting, gently fluff the rice with a rice bottle or a large spoon. Be sure not to skip this step, or the rice may become clumpy. And that's perfectly cooked Japanese rice. Serve it in a bowl and enjoy! Let's quickly recap the key points for making perfect Japanese rice. Always measure the rice with a cup instead of eyeballing it. Rinse it lightly 2 to 3 times. There's no need to scrub. Soak it for about 30 minutes so it cooks evenly and becomes fluffy. Start with 1 cup of rice to about 1 cup of water. Keep the lid closed so the steam stays inside and the rice cooks properly. Let the rice rest, then gently fluff. Now let's talk about how to store rice. If you have leftover rice or want to cook a large batch and save some for later, freezing is the best option. Storing rice in the refrigerator can cause it to dry out and become hard. So if you're not planning to eat it the same day, freezing works much better. To freeze rice, wrap it in plastic wrap while it's still warm. Spread out a sheet of plastic wrap and place 1 serving of rice in the center. Shape the rice into an even layer, then wrap it loosely. The key point is to wrap the rice while it's still warm. This helps trap the steam and prevent the rice from drying out later. Once the wrapped rice has cooled slightly, place it in the freezer. Frozen rice can be stored for about 1 month. If you prefer not to use plastic wrap, you can also use microwave-safe freezer containers. Simply place the hot rice into the container, let it cool slightly, and then store it in the freezer. When you want to eat frozen rice, the easiest way to reheat it is in the microwave. Heat the rice for about 2 to 3 minutes at 600 watts. Once it's heated, remove the plastic wrap right away and gently fluff the rice while it's still warm. If you leave the wrap on after heating, the surface can become wet and soggy. Removing the wrap right away helps the moisture spread evenly through the rice, so it stays soft and fluffy. Also, natural thawing is not recommended because the rice can lose moisture and become dry. Another option is to reheat the rice in a steamer. Remove the plastic wrap and steam the rice directly from frozen for about 10 to 15 minutes. This method reheats the rice very gently and makes it soft and fluffy again, almost like freshly cooked rice. In this section, I'll answer some common questions about cooking rice. What's the best rice to water ratio? When cooking Japanese rice in a pot, the basic ratio is 1 cup of rice to about 1 to 1.2 cups of water. But measuring 1.2 cups can be a little confusing, so I recommend keeping it simple and using about the same amount of water as rice. For example, if you cook 1 cup of rice, add 1 cup of water. If you cook 2 cups of rice, add 2 cups of water. If your rice turns out a little firm, try adding 1 to 2 tablespoons of more water per cup of rice next time. How much rice should you cook? I can give you a simple guideline. When rice is cooked, it usually becomes about twice its original amount. For example, 1 cup of uncooked rice becomes about 330 grams of cooked rice, which is roughly 2 bowls of rice. If you cook 2 cups of rice, you will get about 700 grams or around 4 to 5 bowls of rice. That's also about 6 small onigiri. These measurements are based on the Japanese rice cup, which is 180 milliliter. If you use a larger cup, the amount of cooked rice will be more. So think of this as a general guide. You can adjust the amount depending on how much rice you eat and the size of your family. By the way, in our family of 4, I usually cook about 4 to 6 cups of rice per day. What cookware can you use? As long as the pot has a lid that fits tightly, you can cook rice in almost any kind of pot. For example, I usually use either a stainless steel saucepan or a stove pot, and both work perfectly well. One important point is to make sure the pot is large enough for the amount of rice you are cooking. If the pot is too small, the rice may boil over while cooking. As a general guide, after adding the rice and water, the pot should be about half full. Also, a rice paddle called a shamoji is a must-have tool for cooking Japanese rice. Mine has an embossed surface, so the rice doesn't stick when serving. Which rice should you buy? Japanese rice is short grain rice, which is known for its slightly sticky texture. If you look at online stores outside Japan, you may see names like koshihikari, nishiki, or simply sushi rice. All of these can work well for everyday Japanese meals. Koshihikari is especially popular and widely grown across Japan. It's one of the most well-known Japanese rice varieties, so if you see it at the store, it's definitely worth trying. If you have a well-stocked Japanese grocery store nearby, you might also find other varieties such as akitakomachi or yumepirika. They all have slightly different flavors and textures, so feel free to try a few and see which one you like the best. How should you store uncooked rice? Uncooked rice should be kept in an airtight container in a cool, dry place. I store mine in a large container in a kitchen drawer. Rice doesn't have a strict expiration date, but most packages in Japan include a milling date, which shows when the rice was milled. Because rice slowly loses its freshness after milling, try to use it within about 1 month. If the weather is hot or humid, or if you can't finish it within a month, you can store the rice in the refrigerator. Can you cook brown rice the same way? Yes, you can cook brown rice, but it needs more water and a longer soaking time than white rice. Using a pressure cooker can also help cook brown rice more easily. If you're interested, you can check out my brown rice cooking video. If you like to add more nutrition to white rice, another option is multigrain rice. You can find many multigrain blends at Japanese grocery stores, so if you see one, give it a try. Once you've cooked delicious rice, there are many ways to enjoy it. You can simply enjoy it as it is, or add something simple like umeboshi or furikake. If you want to make something a little more special, try making onigiri or a rice bowl. I also have many rice recipe videos on this channel, so feel free to search for rice and check them out. I hope this video helps you cook perfect Japanese rice at home and enjoy it in your everyday meals. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe for more.